Bye, little one. I don't know if you heard the little bye.
She's talking?
A lot.
Wow.
And unsurprisingly, given that her dad is a professional talker. What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a 33-year-old man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid, but I read them as an adult because I have been on a quest to determine if society has been sleeping on the entire series. I said society has been sleeping on the main series. Now I'm doing the sequel series. When you're listening to this episode, we will have just finished our conclusion of the second season of the television series, but now we're back to talk about myths from the third book in the sequel series. And of course, we are joined by the person whose name I scream out into the ether every time a myth thing comes up that confuses me. It's Dr. Moiya McTier. Dr. Moiya, how's it going?
Hi, Mike. I'm so happy to be here as a 30-year-old woman who did read the Percy Jackson books and loved them as a kid.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I was saying this before the call, but I'm taking this call from the office of my in-laws, who are both PhDs. So I feel like I'm as close to doctor as possible right now, in the room of two doctors talking to a doctor.
The doctor vibes are swirling around.
The vibes are good. Those vibes are swirling. For context, we're recording this one on December 10th, which means that the Percy Jackson TV show, the first 2 episodes of season 2, have just dropped. So it's this interesting thing where I have just begun like this new interstitial era of covering the TV show on the pod, but we got to get this recording in so that once the TV show's over, it's like, hey, remember the myths from that book we just read before we get into the House of Hades? So I had sent you over the list of the myths that we got to talk about, and you did reply, good list. So I'm excited for what we are going to discuss. I think we should get right into it, unless there's... Oh, wait, no, I got to ask you some returning guest questions.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I've asked you some, but not all. Have I asked you, and you're allowed to pass on this one, your fatal flaw?
Oh, you haven't. Oh, no.
Okay, you can if it's too real, you can say, no, thank you, Mike.
No, I think I will do a lot to not be wrong.
Ooh, that's a good fatal flaw.
Yeah, I imagine if I lived in a mythical world, that could get me in trouble.
Yeah, I feel the tendency of this, not necessarily when people are talking trash about me online. Like if someone leaves a nasty comment about me, whether it's my looks or even the podcast, so be it. But when someone says something that either isn't true or they take something that I've said out of context and it makes me sound wrong or mean or whatever, that's when I'm like really intent on correcting it. And it'll be sometimes where Kelly's like, what are you doing? And I'll be like, someone said something on the subreddit and they misquoted me and they're making me look like an idiot. And she's like, that's not important. I'm like, but what if someone reads this comment?
Yes, exactly. I would be the Narcissus who's just looking at the comments all day long if I let myself.
Yeah. I'm glad podcasting comment section is usually more chill. If I was in a more publicly scrutinized type of position where hate comments are flowing in all the time, I'd have to be one of those people that just doesn't have social media. If I was a professional athlete, no way. Couldn't do it. Absolutely couldn't do it. Yeah. People being mean when I'm just trying to score some points? No.
This is just a game. Be nice.
But it's more. My personality is defined by the team I like winning. So we are here to discuss these myths. So let's get into these myths. The first, and this goes in order of what came up in the book. The first one was Nemesis came up. And Nemesis has this cool biker girl vibe. She's got motorcycles with like Pac-Man wheels where it's like not a full circle, it's cuts off. I don't know if that's a Nemesis iconography kind of thing, but my question to you is, what is Nemesis traditionally like? Because this felt very much like a Uncle Rick cooking description of Nemesis.
Yeah, I think that description might come from Uncle Rick's mind, but in the myths, she's a retribution goddess. She is the literal personification of resentment and revenge, especially resentment towards men who get things that they don't deserve.
That's good.
Yeah, so relatable. So she can deal out happiness, but but she's more likely to deal out loss and suffering when there's too much happiness around. And there is a story where Zeus lusted after her, of course.
As he is wont to do.
Yes. In one version of the story, he chased Nemesis, and she shapeshifted into all of these different forms until eventually she became a goose and he became a swan and attacked her that way. There's another version where Zeus gets Aphrodite in on it, and Aphrodite pretends to be an eagle who is chasing Zeus in swan form until Nemesis takes pity on him and invites Zeus swan to come sit in her lap, and then she falls asleep and he does what Zeus does, and then later she lays an egg.
Okay.
She lays an egg, and that egg is given to Leda, and then it eventually hatches out Helen of Troy.
Oh, wow. I did not realize that was how Helen came about. Okay.
I know. It's a whole, like, Greek mythology is so interconnected, but in these long circuitous routes.
Yeah. My goodness. So Nemesis, I, of course, now know more about because of Hades 2, the video game. And in Hades 2, I don't know what her tagline is listed as. It might be listed her as like the goddess of balance.
Ooh, yeah.
And it seems less like revenge and more of that. So is there a time when Nemesis is more revengey, like you're saying, versus more likely to dish out happiness? Are there like certain interpretations or certain authors that make her more, I guess, mean than just, trying to make things even?
No, I think she usually is painted as someone who wants to have balance, but there's another goddess, Tyche, who has come up in the books, it seems, from the list.
Yes. This is going to be a question.
Yeah. So Tyche is the goddess of chance and good fortune, and it's almost Nemesis's job to balance out Tyche's work. Nemesis can give people good things, but usually it's punishment. She's involved in the story of Narcissus. After Narcissus kind of spurns a whole bunch of nymphs, especially Echo, Nemesis is one of the people who punishes Narcissus.
Nice. I did look it up in Hades 2, and Nemesis is retribution incarnate as the little tagline. So you, according to what I consider is you and Hades are 1A and 1B for my mythology sources. So I'm glad you two are in agreement.
We are the official tomes.
Now, I think there was also something in this book where we have the Greek and the Roman of it all coming, and they mention that like certain gods and goddesses don't change that much from the Greek to the Roman version. And I believe two of the people cited were Aphrodite and Nemesis. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if you're keyed into this, but is Roman Nemesis pretty similar to Greek Nemesis? Like that's not a Athena thing where she becomes wildly different?
Right. Yeah, I haven't heard of that. I think because Rome's culture had such an emphasis on structured politics and war, it makes sense for a retribution goddess to not go very changed in the transition.
Okay. Cool. All right. So as you've alluded to, the second question is what's up with Tyche? Because in the book, Nemesis mentions Tyche saying, quote, that tramp Tyche always dispensing good luck to people who don't deserve it. So I feel like you've kind of checked the boxes there, but are there any Tyche things that you didn't already get out there?
No, I couldn't find any specific stories about her, but I imagine that maybe a lot of the hero work that we see that's not explicitly by one of the other gods or goddesses, maybe Tyche is pulling strings behind the scenes, being like, oh, these men are going to have all these impressive feats. And Nemesis is coming along like, stop putting them on pedestals.
Yeah, I said this in the episode, but I feel like we could use Nemesis, especially this Nemesis of men who have things they don't deserve. Nemesis in 2025 could hit real hard.
Please.
I would love some more Nemesis. Nemesis, I don't know how I'd make a peace offering to you, but let me know. Let me know in the comments.
Build a little scale on your altar or something.
Ooh, yeah, maybe I get a scale and I put 2 candles on each side and I burn them and I make sure they burn evenly, nice and balanced. So, relatedly, we've already talked about Echo here. So, what are the specifics of Echo's backstory? I feel like every time I have come across Echo, which is this book and Hades, the video game, it's always after the thing is done. And I don't know as much about like what went into her and Narcissus' relationship. And they talk about it a little bit in the book, but I feel like I'm more caught up to speed on the after and not the before. So I'd love to know what led her to be the repeating person she is.
Yes, I think you will be unsurprised to learn that it has to do with Zeus and Hera and Hera's anger at Zeus. I should have waited until after you drank. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. I think it's very funny. And I look forward to when we do a Dr. Moiya episode in, 10 years. And I've trained I won't actually do this because I hate AI, but I've trained the Dr. Moiya chatbot where it just like automatically plugs out like it was Zeus and Hera's fault.
Yes. That could be a canned response.
Right.
So Echo's story goes back to when she was a nymph attendant of Hera. Echo was an Oread, a nymph of Mount Helicon. So she was like a stone nymph.
Right.
And she was basically Hera's lady in waiting, but she would distract Hera every time Zeus was off having an affair. And when Hera found this out, she cursed Echo with, like, the only thing she could say was a repetition of what someone else had said, an echo of what someone else had just said.
Okay.
So that's the only way she could talk. In that form, she falls in love with Narcissus.
Okay.
The god Pan also falls in love with her. So it's not a love triangle because Narcissus isn't in love with Pan.
Yeah.
But it is a love angle. And Pan chases Echo around. Narcissus is ignoring Echo to the point where she gets so sick she wastes away. And the only thing left behind is her voice.
Okay. So there was never a point in which Echo and Narcissus are a thing? It's always just a one direction of Echo loving Narcissus? Or
I can absolutely see, because Narcissus loves himself so much, a woman who can only repeat what he's already said back to him would be the type of woman he goes after until someone else comes along who flatters him more. So yeah, he probably like led her on a little bit. And then started ignoring her, and then she wasted away.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that is the vibe that Hades 2, the video game, has brought into it, because Narcissus is in there as well, and you meet them at a point in which things are not going well, and then you have a task to try and like get them back together, and it's very much implied that like they were a thing, and then Narcissus got into his stare into the reflection deal and kind of blew it, and he is definitely painted more as the bad guy, and Echo is more in the right and she was wronged, and then you have to work to get them back together. I still haven't completed this quest, so I don't even know how it resolves, but it's been fun. And the guy who does the voice acting for Narcissus is very fun. He almost sounds like Nicolas Cage with the voice of like, oh wow, yo, which is really fun.
Exactly what I would expect. Good.
And then the Echo thing, it's something that the book Mark of Athena did very well, and they also do in Hades video game. It is impressive where you'll have the writing done to where the person talking to Echo doesn't sound like they are setting up for the Echo repeating thing to work, but then it always does. Ooh. Like her repeating, depending on what word in the sentence she starts with, it does work in context. It's always very impressive to me as just like a feat of writing to be like, well, that sounds like a normal thing someone would ask. And then you're like, oh, but because of the Echo thing, now it fits so perfectly. Like it's a good little exercise.
Good job, Rick.
Yeah, Rick did great with it. So the next person that we meet that I was confused about is Phorcys, because in the books, we don't learn too much about him in particular, other than that he works at the Atlanta Aquarium and has a bunch of monsters kept captive in big tubes. Ooh. And wants them to fight and do grandiose, extravagant performances for people. I was going to say like evil SeaWorld, so I guess like SeaWorld, just regular SeaWorld. So what's up with Phorcys?
I love that that's how he was represented in the books. I've always said Phorcys.
It could be it.
I'm not Greek. Who knows? Phorcys is a sea god, so that's why he's at the aquarium. He's a child of Gaia and Pontus is the primordial god of the sea.
Yeah.
Also an offspring of Gaia. So Phorcys is Gaia's son and grandson.
Oh, interesting.
Fun fact. He also married his sister, Keto. All of this is just really common in Greek mythology, especially at the beginning when there just weren't a lot of them. Everyone was related. Yeah.
Keto does show up as well. She's kind of like Phorcys' co-worker. I don't think they mentioned that they're siblings, though. If they did, I have forgotten it. So that's new information.
Yeah. They usually sweep the incest under the rug in the adaptations. It's just it's like it conveniently ignore it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Together, Phorcys and Keto have many monstrous children. They have the Gorgons. These are winged demons with snakes for hair. Yes, Medusa is one of them, but she's the only mortal one. And later writers added on that story about Athena and Poseidon being the reason that Medusa has the hair. Originally, they were just born to a family of monsters, and she has two sisters, Stheno and Euryale.
Yes, Stheno and Uriel, I believe. They were in the second Heroes of Olympus book as just the flying Gorgons, and Percy has to deal with them. And Stheno is given to be like, she commits to the bit of they like go undercover basically as like Costco free sample salesman, and she's all into it. And Uriel is more on task. They're great. I hope they come back. They were so fun.
Good. They should. So that's one group of monstrous children. They also gave birth to the Grey sisters.
Oh, cool. Yeah. The sharing the eyeball. Yeah.
Yeah, sharing the eyeball and the tooth. And I think it's some Disney movie that confuses them with the Fates. So now a bunch of people think that the Grey sisters are the Fates, but they are totally different. They're sea hags, and they are supposed to personify sea foam, the white foam of the sea.
Ah, that's very fun. And look how timely, given that we are recording this on the day that the first two episodes of the Sea of Monsters TV show is out, and the Grey sisters famously show up in those episodes. Yeah. How fun.
So
wow.
Yeah.
It's all worked out so well.
Echidna is one of the others. There's Ladon, who's the serpent who guards the apples of Hesperides. Scylla, although later writers added that curse from Circe. And then Thusa, who is the mother of the giant Cyclops Polyphemus. So just a bunch of monstrous offspring. And I hope that in this story, they aren't also Phorcys's children, that he's just keeping in cages.
I don't think so. I mean, so what we basically get in the story is that he's keeping certain people in cages, but it's none of the folks that you have mentioned.
Okay.
And then they have monsters at their disposal, because later, and I asked you about one of these, they send out monsters to attack our crew when they are traveling via the water. So it doesn't seem like they're putting their own monsters in captivity. It's other people that they're trying to have fight. Like they want Percy and Frank to be held captive underwater. So yeah, I don't think it's their own monsters. What's fun is I can really feel myself leveling up in mythology now that I have, read so many of these books and played so many hours of the Hades games, because every single monster you mentioned, I was like, oh yeah. And recently I was doing trivia and there was a mythology section and I was like, guys, I've got it. I've got it. I'm leveling up. Woo! Okay. So the next one on the list was, what are ichthyocentaurs? Are those the fish centaurs?
Yes.
Okay. And are they real? So I guess this showed up twice in the, this is twice in the list. So
you were really curious about them.
Really curious about fish centaurs. I didn't know if it was like a real thing or if Rick was like, well, they effectively made an underwater Camp Half-Blood in the book. So do we need to have underwater version of Chiron and everyone? So yeah, what's up with the ichthyocentaurs?
They are a real thing. They are sea gods. They have the top halves of men and the bottom halves of fish, like fish tails. But on the front of the fish part, there are also two horse legs.
Okay. So it's a three-parter, not a two-parter.
It's a three-part, and also a little bit of a four-parter because they have lobster claw horns.
Right. That was mentioned in the book, and I thought that was an incredible vibe.
Good. So we don't know much about them. I couldn't figure out who their parents were, although some stories say that they are related to Chiron. Would be the children of Kronos. Potentially, but there are a couple of them who are named in mythology, Aphros and Bythos.
Those are the two that show up, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. They are the two who sometimes are shown accompanying Aphrodite as she comes out of the sea.
Oh, very fun. Yeah. In the book, I forget which one is which. I think Aphros is like, they make him to be big and beefier, but he teaches everything except for fighting at the camp. And it's this funny thing where they assume he's the fighting guy, and he's like, why would you assume that just because I'm big? And then Bythos is the fighting one, and Aphros is like, oh, silly Bythos and his fighting, and he gives them the perfect recipe for brownies as a parting gift. Yeah, that chapter was really fun. I really enjoyed them, hence why I had two questions about them, which were the same question, which was, who are these guys? I would imagine that the Cronus angle makes sense. There's a conversation that Percy has with them about trying to talk with Chiron, or not, Percy doesn't have it with them. Sorry, Percy's not there. He's mad that they don't want to talk to him because he's like, I know Chiron, we're tight. Like, why don't they want to talk to me? My dad's Poseidon, blah, blah, blah. And they cite underwater politics. So I could see their lineage having to do something with a different sea god that is not Poseidon, and then that's what they want to do with, or it could be a Kronos, and Kronos hates Poseidon, so yeah, they cited that, and it felt to me like a family ties situation as why they're not keen to talk to the son of Poseidon. So as mentioned, later on when they're traveling in the water, they get attacked by a scolopendra, which Percy, and I love that he does this, calls it Shrimpzilla, just giant evil shrimp. And when we learn later that Keto is who sent it, someone says like, oh, if they sent you that one, like, oh man, like they must really hate you. So that made me wonder, is there some sort of backstory to it where it was this big evil thing and someone fought it off, or is it just in the long list of scary monsters?
In the long list of scary monsters, but kind of one of those monsters that because we have so few details of it, it's almost like people were so afraid of it. They were talking about it in these hushed whispers. It has, according to like one source that wrote about it, hairy nostrils, a flat crayfish-like tail, and webbed feet lining its flanks, like a bunch of feet on its sides. And some people think that this might have been based on sightings of baleen whales, so like all of their weird teeth being the hairy nostrils. But these days, scolopendra is also the name for a genus of tropical centipedes because of the webbed feet lining its sides.
Oh, now I'm going to Google it. Oh, ew. You said it with such a happy tone.
I was like,
cute. Maybe they're cute.
I thought it was cute.
Oh, I won't. Ooh, it's a centipede, but the legs are really long. Like the legs stick out too long for my liking.
Yeah, it's a pretty monstrous one.
Yeah. Well, I think Percy calling it Shrimpzilla, correct. I stand by his characterization. Okay. Actually, this is a good point because we're kind of midway through the list. So let's take our mid-roll break, the myth roll break, where we'll talk about updates with the podcast and stuff, seeing what our future episodes will be like. Because at recording this, I don't know what's to come. I don't know, are we getting right into House of Hades? Are there other TV show interviews? So listen to the mid-roll break, figure out what's going on. I'll have to listen too. I wonder what future Mike's up to.
Got so much going on.
Hello and welcome to the Myth Roll Break, hosted by me, ASMR Mike, because I'm coming to you from our hotel in Wellington, New Zealand, but it is late at night, so I'm trying to make sure that I do not disrupt the sleep of Kelly and the baby, so you get a combo of Mid-Roll Mike and ASMR Mike. So let's talk about updates with the podcast. The first and foremost, that is most time pressing, is that our live show in Auckland, New Zealand is very, very soon. It's on February 5th, which is a Thursday. It's in 2 days if you're here in the future. It's in 3 days if you're here in the past and somehow traveling to Auckland for the show. But if you want to get tickets, you can get them at thenewestlympian.com/live. That's also where you can get tickets to a bunch of our upcoming US live shows that we've got coming up over the next couple of months. Got shows in Vienna, Virginia, and then a whole bunch in the southeastern United States. So if you want to get tickets to all of these shows, you want to see where we're coming and when, head on over to thenewestlympian.com/live. We've also got some stuff in the more western part of the US. Got a show in Denver and in Berkeley locked in, and I'm trying to secure some other ones in that part of the country as well. So let's talk about structure a little bit here, because this is us returning to the normal form of covering the books, the Heroes of Olympus series again. We will be, after this episode, getting into the House of Hades, and I will be updating the website. I know I've been slacking on updating the About page. I'm sorry about that. Just so many things going on, so many things. But the first episode covers the first 4 chapters of the House of Hades. I don't think we complete chapter 4, but we at least touch on part of it because the first couple were a little bit shorter. So if you're trying to get caught up and you want to read exactly what we're covering next week, I believe we get a chunk into chapter 4 of the House of Hades. But if you go to thenewestlympian.com/about, I will have that updated with all of the chapters that we covered. So if you're trying to read along with the pod, you can. But yeah, we're back and covering the books again. We are going to be doing House of Hades. And as I said in the last little update episode, that will just continue on. And I will still be conducting interviews with folks involved with the TV show, but they'll just be posted on the feed as bonus episodes. Those won't take the place of anything that would be a normal episode. But if there is a time where I take an off week, like I think March is one of those 5 Monday months, one of those weeks should be an interview with the TV show folks. So that's the plan going forward. I'm excited about it. I did put up an interesting bonus episode. I'm trying to put up some more bonus content, and one that I did was me actually doing editing work on this episode, where I just did like a screen share, watch me cook kind of thing, where if you've ever wanted to see what my screen looks like when editing a podcast episode, because I edited this one from start to finish just because of scheduling stuff for me and Sherry. This worked out better. If you've ever been intrigued by that, you can head on over to the Patreon and check that out. And there's a whole bunch of fun stuff on the Patreon, and I'm making a dedicated push now that tour stuff is winding down to really get a lot going up on the Patreon. So check out what we've got going over there at thenewestlympian.com/Patreon. Speaking of, I want to give a shout out to the folks who have joined the Patreon most recently. So shout out to our newest Mega God tier patron, the Ghost of Lee Fletcher, and shout out to our newest Demigod tier patrons, Jack, Tuva, Brothin, Rokum, and Ashlyn41. Thank you so much for your support. May Hephaestus bless you that if you are taking a very long train ride, that everything goes well on the train and there are no mechanical issues. If you're all caught up in the Newest Olympian and you're looking for some new podcasts in your life in between episodes, you're in luck, because I make a whole bunch of podcasts. I think you'd like the other podcasts. And one that I think you would enjoy that is strangely relevant to me being in Wellington, New Zealand, is a show that I did with Eric Hamilton Schneider called The Last and the Curious. It's a limited series podcast that we are probably going to be adding to now that there's been a recent announcement. But this show, The Last and the Curious, is about the Fast and the Furious movies. Vin Diesel himself has announced that there's going to be a new installment in 2028. I say that it's relevant here because I learned that the folks at Weta, the people who do visual effects and a whole bunch of other things for many movies, including the Lord of the Rings movies most famously, they also did stuff for one of the Fast and Furious movies. So that's wild. But this whole podcast's concept was that I had never watched a second of any of these films, and Eric is obsessed with them. And we went through one at a time. We would watch the movie and then immediately get on microphones to talk about them. We did the first 4 in person while we were on tour together for TNO, and then the other ones we did remote. But it was such a fun time. It's such a silly, fun podcast, and you can check it out. You get access to all 13 episodes right away. No ads, nothing other than sweet, sweet content at thelastandthecurio.us, or you can go to the TNO Patreon shop. If you go to patreon.com/thenewestlympian, you go to the shop tab for $5. You get all of those episodes right away, ad-free. Super fun stuff. I hope you enjoy. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon, where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors to make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, such as for Quince, a clothing company that's doing good stuff, and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally, so if you live on the Marshall Islands, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in English or Marshallese. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of the Newest Olympian. Okay, we're back. Let's get back into the list. So later on, they finally meet Hercules. At long last, after just hearing about him in book after book after book, we finally get to meet him. And there's one point when they're talking to him where he says, quote, "After all those labors I had to complete for my evil cousin Eurystheus. Well, I don't want to be that guy, you know? So I needed to know what's up with Eurystheus."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Eurystheus is the whole reason, basically, that Hercules does the labors.
Okay.
So he's a Mycenaean king, and he is Heracles' cousin. So Heracles' mom is Alcmene. Alcmene's dad is named Electreon. Electreon's brother is Sthenelus, and Sthenelus' son is Eurystheus.
Okay.
Yes.
Electreon for sure sounds like a Pokemon. That feels like what they probably could have named Jolteon, but they were like, no, we might get sued by Homer.
I hear Homer's really litigious in the afterlife. Yeah. So there was a bit of a throne shakeup where Sthenelus, even though he's the younger brother, he took over Mycenae when Electreon died. And then Hera, because she's petty, made sure that Eurystheus then came of age before Heracles did, so that Eurystheus ended up being the Mycenaean king.
Okay. How do you make a younger person come of age first?
She just manipulated things so that Sthenelus had a kid before Electreon's offspring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like Electreon had a daughter and not a son, so she couldn't take the throne. But Electreon's brother had a son who could take it.
Okay, gotcha.
And then much later, after Hera drove Heracles mad and he murdered his family, an oracle said that the only way he could atone was by going to his cousin, King Eurystheus, and doing 12 labors that Eurystheus assigned to him. And over the course of the 12 labors, you can see Eurystheus getting more and more afraid of Heracles for completing these like impossible tasks to the point where he eventually forbids Heracles from coming to see him. And instead of assigning the labors directly, Eurystheus has, I don't know, some courtly attendant go and tell Heracles what to do outside the bounds of the kingdom.
Because he's afraid that Hercules will be so upset he would just, attack him if he was in proximity.
Yeah, and then eventually after Heracles dies, his sons go and kill Eurystheus in some challenge.
Sounds about right. Yeah, this makes sense, knowing more and more of the Hercules story, because in the book he's almost like defeated by just how obnoxious every angle of his family life is. And now I know this other side of it. It's just like, yeah, his God side sucked, his mortal side sucked. They intertwined to suck for like combo of suck. Like, it's just, dude did not have an easy go of it.
The heroes rarely do.
And at all such a young age too.
So sad.
Man. So later on, Hercules has two of our teammates go and they have to rip off Achelous' other horn. And when it's presented that way, it makes it pretty clear, like, oh, okay, Hercules took off the first horn. And when they go to Achelous, he talks about Deianira, who was that Hercules's like love interest, or it was like Achelous had feelings for her, but then she, yeah,
they both were in love with Deianira, and they competed in a contest. Hercules won a contest of strength and so got to marry her. I don't think Achelous ever like came back to do anything, but it is interesting that he's the one sharing this story.
Yeah. Was he a human during that competition, or was he, as he is in the book, like a bull with a human face?
A bull with a human face, but not a minotaur.
Let me see. Hold on. Achelous is a bull man god of a river named after him. So in the Heroes of Olympus,
river spirit makes sense.
Yeah, because he's in a river, they have to go and get his other horn. Wait, sorry. So if I was to say Achelous to you, was he just like a dude in your understanding? Because I thought the whole horn thing felt very much like a Hercules labor kind of deal.
My memory of his story is fuzzy, but you saying river god did spark something in me that I used to talk about in the formation of myths. Like there was a story, I think, of Hercules defeating some river monster.
Yeah, the quick Google overview says that Achelous is a powerful river god in Greek mythology, personifying the largest river in Greece, also named Achelous, son of Oceanus and Tethys. He's chief of river gods, depicted as a bull or man-bull, famously battling Hercules for the hand of Deianira and losing a horn, which became the cornucopia. He's known for his shape-shifting, appearing as a bull, snake, or bull man, and fathered the sirens.
Good for him.
Good for him.
Yes. And I would often teach that battle between Hercules and Achelous was most likely an exaggerated and mythologized iteration of a story that started as a group of people diverting a stream away from a town.
Was that one of the labors?
No, but fighting Achelous maybe was one of the labors.
Okay.
Or maybe just something he did. Just another heroic task.
It's side quest from the labors. I'm going to go fight this dude, get a new wife, and rip a horn off while I'm at it.
He was lonely, I understand. And then later, there's Nessus, the centaur, that comes into the story.
Yes. So Achelous says about Deianira is that she met a cruel fate. He says that Hercules had loads of affairs and she got jealous and she listened to bad advice from a centaur named Nessus, who said that spreading centaur blood on the inside of a hero's shirt was the key to making him faithful. Achelous said that this was a revenge ploy from Nessus. So obviously the centaur blood is... Did that kill him or just seriously injure him?
It was something that was in the centaur blood in the original myth. I don't know how far back they go in the book to the story, but there is some backstory where Nessus, the centaur, used to live in Arcadia, and he was driven out for some reason and had to take a job as a ferryman across the Aetolian River. And then later, Hercules and Deianira had to cross that river. So Hercules decides to do it on his own because he doesn't want to be in the boat with Nessus, but he puts Deianira in the boat with Nessus, who then tries to attack her. So Hercules shoots him with a poisoned arrow, but before Hercules can reach the boat and before Nessus dies, Nessus tells Deianira that the trick to getting Hercules to be loyal is to take a mixture of his blood and semen, which he manages to give her in the time before it takes Hercules to reach the boat.
Do you have a magazine or a DVD?
and then because he's been shot with an arrow poisoned with Hydra venom, his blood and semen are poisoned. So later when Deianira puts it on Hercules' shirt, it's Hydra poison that kills him, not just centaur blood.
Okay. Look, Deianira, feel like you shouldn't trust relationship advice from someone who was just killed by your spouse. They might be seeking revenge.
Perhaps.
Like they might be mad at him. Your man has just killed me. Let me give you some good relationship advice. Like, right. Oh, come on, Deianira.
Not only has your man just killed me, but I just tried to attack you.
Yeah. Why?
And then your man killed me.
Why would you take this advice? Man. Deianira. So the next person that we meet is someone who's depicted very creatively in the book. I really enjoyed his vibe. Is it Chrysaor? Chrysler? Town and country?
Yeah, I might say like Chrysaor, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll go like Chrysaor. Yeah. I don't know. Chrysaor. Chrysaor says that he can do whatever he wants because he has a perfect crew. And Percy goes, your crew is a bunch of dolphins. And Chrysaor explains that they were cursed for kidnapping the wrong person. So what is the story of the kidnapping and the curse to become dolphins?
I love that Rick used this because he was diving deep into the Homeric hymns. There's a story about a group of Tyrrhenian pirates, and Tyrrhenian is one of the terms that ancient Greeks would use to refer to anyone who was not Greek. So maybe they were Italians, but they were like somewhere around the Mediterranean. And they kidnapped Dionysus in one story. Once they had him on their ship, they tried and failed to bind him several times. There was one helmsman who was like, hey, maybe leave him alone. And all the other crew were like, no, we're going to bind him and sell him or something. And so obviously that didn't work. Dionysus turned into a lion and succeeded in killing the captain of the ship. All of the other crew jumped off the ship, and when they landed in the water, Dionysus's magic turned them into dolphins.
Very cool.
And he rewarded the one helmsman who didn't want to tie him up by saying like, oh, I'm the god Dionysus, and probably let's party together.
Cool. Love that. Good for that guy having a cool party, even though all of his friends have died / turned into dolphins.
Well, they were fools.
They were fools indeed. Yeah, they keep the fear of Dionysus in there. That is what ultimately becomes their demise, is that Percy makes an offering actually to Bacchus. But there's some Dionysus play. That chapter is so funny. And the Chrysaor thing is fun too, because he's the child of Medusa, and Percy's able to pick up on this because his accent sounds similar to the accent that Medusa had in the first one. And there's a little like back and forth of like, people from New Jersey don't talk like that because they ran into Medusa from New Jersey. It was a really good chapter. He had like a golden helmet and stuff. Is there any other Chrysaor stuff I should know about? I'm sorry I didn't include this on the list of him.
I don't know. We've definitely talked about him before. Like his relation to Pegasus and Medusa, but no other stories are springing to mind.
Oh, right, it's like when because that also comes up in the book, is that like, because Medusa was beheaded and then out from it sprung Pegasus and Chrysaor. So yeah, part of the thing in the book is like, when your brothers are the most famous mythical creature, wicked horse of all time, people ask a lot of questions, and he's way more popular than me. There's a whole joke of Percy being like, I've never heard of you. Who are you, dude? Yeah. It's pretty great. It's pretty brutal. But his golden helmet is really cool. So, you got that going on.
That is so pretty.
So later on in the book, we run into Hagno and a bunch of nymphs. Hagno says that when Rome took over, the nymphs were invited to this underground temple where they are, and she says that a son of Jupiter tempted them with favors and promises of a better life, and then they left their springs on Mount Lycaeus where they were before, and then they moved here, and then they got stuck there, and the water eventually dried out, and then they were trapped there forever. So is there a full story? Is this son of Jupiter someone that I might know of? What's the Hagno deal?
Yeah, I couldn't really figure this one out. As far as I know, in Roman mythology, the nymphs were just always there. They were the nature spirits, so there's no story of them doing some great migration. So my detective work led me to thinking about different sons of Jupiter who could be nymphs' masters, and I thought maybe Pan. In some stories, he's Zeus's offspring, but in most, he's Hermes' son. So I thought maybe Hermes, but what does he have to do with nymphs? So then the other thing I was left with was Dionysus.
Okay.
Bacchus is sometimes said to be related to nymphs, or like working with them.
Okay. It could just be an Uncle Rick thing, because I think they were put in because we had to go underground because it was kind of simultaneous with them trying to help Annabeth in Arachne's lair, which is like in this deep underground temple. And they were vague enough about the whole son of Jupiter thing that it could just explain of how we got evil nymphs underground. Like it felt more of like explaining why we are here as opposed to vaguely referencing some story that I could know the full thing of. They were just kind of explaining, oh, if you're nymphs, why are you inside of this temple? Because they talk about it being a nymphaeum, I believe. And what they were talking about with these is that they were more traditionally, these temples were kind of like within nature and a stream would go into them. So there was not as much concern of getting the water. But then this son of Jupiter convinced them to go into this temple deep underground, and then if the water dries up from the aqueducts not going there, then you're screwed.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know, like the fact that they just said son of Jupiter and didn't specify, when Uncle Rick is usually pretty good at making those direct references, is confusing.
Yeah, Jason from our team was there, and he's the son of Jupiter, so it could just be a reason for them to hate him. Like the reason of why they're being so mean to our three friends here is because of a revenge ploy, as opposed to, again, like a specific person from mythology that did it. So maybe we filed this one under Uncle Rick cooking. Okay, so the final question that we have here, I did mention that we don't have to get into it in extreme detail because they do a pretty good job, I think, in the book. But do you have, or did you find anything particularly noteworthy about the Cherokee story of the deluge, a story of a flood and like a bone skeleton dog where you move the fur away and it's a dog's already dead, and that whole story?
Nothing more than what they probably covered in the book, but I'm always happy to talk about flood myths in general and how global they are.
Yeah,
and for multiple reasons. Like flood myths will show up in stories of creation and also stories of destruction. So I think that's just an interesting point, but not specific to this Cherokee story.
Gotcha. Because I was, of course, familiar with the Noah and the Ark flood story. So when this came around, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So is this just something that kind of story just pops up in lots of different mythologies?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the ones that comparative mythologists have the best studies about, because you can see flood myths all over the world. There's flood myths where a person like Noah, like Utnapishtim, is told to build a boat and put a bunch of animals and stuff on it. So that story is more common than just the Noah's Ark. But we also see a whole class of myths called earth diver myths, where there are creation stories, especially in indigenous American stories and around the world, where the first land was actually created from a piece of mud taken from the very bottom of the ocean. And the earth diver is an animal who, against all odds, manages to reach the bottom and bring some mud back up, and then magically it spreads, maybe on the back of a turtle, which is why we call North America Turtle Island. Yeah, so I know that there's a Cherokee creation story about the creation of Turtle Island that is an earth diver myth. I don't know if it's going to be separate from this, because there's no
That's very cool.
dog skeleton in that I know of.
Yeah. Does the whole land on the backs of turtles, I feel like I've seen it, I don't know if it's in mythology or maybe in like fantasy things, but I feel like you have those things with like giant turtles with lands on their backs. Is that kind of how those come into play?
Yeah, the idea of the world turtle is another global mythic theme. You see it in Hindu folklore with Akupara, who's the great world turtle, and on her back there are elephants, and then on the elephants' backs you have the disc of the world. And you see this in the earth diver myths, where the mud is then spread on the back of a turtle who volunteers themselves to be the base for it.
Cool. This I Googled Akupara, and it is exactly as you described. Big turtle, bunch of elephants holding up what looks like a globe sliced in half in most of the depictions. That is wild. Oh, and then this one has some sort of like big fish-looking thing that's eating its own tail underneath.
Ooh, yeah. Sometimes there's a snake that goes around all of them with Akupara.
Yes.
In other folklore, instead of a turtle, they like in Aztec or Nahua cosmology, they say that the earth is in the body of a crocodile. And then there are like layers of heaven above the crocodile. And the layer you go to after you die depends on how you died, not how you lived.
Oh, that's stressful. Oh my gosh, I would be so concerned.
Well, it's very similar to the Norse.
What if I died in a really stupid way?
It's really similar to the Norse system, right?
Look, I've not played Norse Hades, the video game.
Yeah, I think they had a special layer of those 13 levels of heaven that was for people who died by drowning.
Is it a good one or a bad one?
I don't know if there are like moral attachments to them.
Okay. It's just, you just happen to get sorted there. Yeah. It's like, oh man, you too? Yeah.
It removes the guesswork when you see someone after a long time.
Yeah, look, small talk in that level of heaven would be really easy because you don't have to be like, how did you die? Like, no, let's get right on to the more interesting questions. How did you live? What was your life like? Awesome. Well, Dr. Moiya, thank you as always for enlightening me, enlightening our listeners, having a fun time. If people want to check you out doing more stuff, where can they check you out? You're doing so many things. You've got books. You're doing fun speaking engagements in New York City.
Yeah.
What do you want to plug?
You can find all the things I do at moiamctier.com or on whatever social platform at GoAstroMo. I will explicitly ask you to check out my podcast, Pale Blue Pod. It's for people who are interested in the universe, but a little intimidated by it and overwhelmed by it. And my next book for all of you mythology nerds out there is called Mothers of Invention. It's coming out on August 18th, 2026. I have the pub date.
Wow.
And it's a history of creativity told from the perspectives of the 9 muses from Greek mythology. And I've made them such fun characters. I think Uncle Rick would be proud.
That is awesome. Did you pick 8, 18, 26 because 8 plus 18 equals 26? Or is it just a random date? Or is it a significant date?
It's a publisher's random date, but it is exactly 4 years and 2 days after the Milky Way came out, which means now I feel like I have to publish a book every 4 Augusts.
Yeah. You've started a pattern.
Yeah. Oops.
And you got to stick with it. Yeah. But hey, you know what? We love a deadline, and it'll keep you on task.
I work best with one.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Absolutely same. So that's so fun. I feel like people are going to love that, especially with all the Hercules talk. It can't talk about him without thinking of all of the way they were beautifully done in the Disney Hercules movies. I would say one of the things that, like, there's many things wrong, but that's certainly one of the things right.
For sure. And I would love to hear everyone's thoughts on how I brought these different muse characters to life and made them like not the obvious versions of themselves.
That's fun. I like the not obvious. And that's a thing that the Hades video game people like to do. They like to find like certain interpretations of the myths or certain characters that are less known and then put little twists and spins on it. And I think that's fun when mythology is something that, you know, things are retold and told time and time again. To have something a little bit different is fun. It's always fun when we hop on here and you're like, and in this one telling, you know, they were actually a fisherman instead of, you know, a demon slayer. Yeah. So yeah,
so many versions.
I think it's fun. I am very excited for your book, and I can't wait to have it in August of next year, the future. But until then, thank you so much, Dr. Moiya, for joining. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, when we're covering probably the beginning of the House of Hades, but maybe something else. Until then, I'll see you later. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brendan Krugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you can't get enough of the show, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon for bonus episodes, bonus content, ad-free episodes, a whole bunch of fun stuff. If you want to interact with the community around the show, you can check out the Discord, which is available to all patrons, or we're on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And we've got a subreddit, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. You can also show your love for TNO by getting TNO merch at thenewestolympian.com/merch. Of course, want to give a huge shout out to our producer level patrons, Kelsey Gillespie, Vicky Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Sam Ruby, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Mick Walters, Grace, Ginger Spursboy, Bradimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jackson, Kit Kat Crumbs, Jim Jam Koopy, Andrea, not Andrea, Jordan Ray, Nico's Black, Vespa, Zayden Wintergate, Terry Rothfuzz, Certified Ghost King's emotional support friend, Lee Hartley, and Persasabeth. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, word of mouth is essential for podcast growth. You can tell a friend directly, say, hey, there's this Percy Jackson podcast I think you would like, check it out. You could leave a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using, or you could just talk about the show on social media. All these things really do help. I really appreciate anyone who has done so in the past, and I appreciate anyone who will do so in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, where we will be covering the first 4-ish chapters of the House of Hades with Beth Eyre live in Manchester. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So I'm recording this sitting in the little living room-ish area of our hotel, and there is some squishy carpet that I'm sitting on. So I'm just going to point the microphone at the carpet and kind of rub my hands back and forth across it, and we'll see if that shows up on the microphone. Now I'll try just literally rubbing the microphone on the carpet directly. Hopefully that was something. Thank you so much for listening.